Hey there everyone, welcome back to another Game Vault video. As always, I'm Cat to Beefy with the Game Vault. We've got more bad news today. What else is new, right? More bad news regarding gaming, but we also have something interesting I want to go over with you that I found on that Park Place. As always, I will link anything I talk about in the description, so you can check it out yourself. So let's cue up the music and we'll get right to it. So, 2 days ago we were talking about layoffs in the industry and how many are occurring. I was talking about some of the latest ones, and then we went back all the way through May and we saw how many there were. It was incredible, the amount of layoffs going on. Well, now we got Dead by Daylight developer Behavior Interactive announcing it's going to lay off up to 95 employees, many located in Montreal. It seems like most of these layoffs are happening in either the US or Canada, which is very, very interesting. Not sure if that's I'm not sure why that's happening. Is that where the most expensive developers are, where they can save the most money? Is the cost of business higher in those two, countries? I don't know. If you have any insight into that, let me know down below. Or maybe that's where the cancer is in some of these companies. It seems like Western developers are really, really bad from what we've seen. But in a press release, the company outlined it was facing unprecedented competition due to the popularity of video games, and that it was planning to renew its focus on its historical strengths such as horror gaming, production expertise, and exceptional service to development partners. On top of renewing its focus on historical strengths, the company outlined it as clear ambitions that include lead in horror, lead in service, and explore the possibilities of location-based entertainment. Fascinating. In order to do this, the company announced it will reduce its team by up to 95 employees, 70 of whom are based in Montreal. Behavior Interactive's co-founder and CEO Remy Racine said, "I would like to express my deep personal appreciation for any employee affected by today's changes." He added, "While changes to our structure and strategic vision have led to challenging decisions, we are confident that these decisions will position us for continued success. As we begin the next phase of Behavior's growth, our commitment to excellence in our products and workplace culture remains steadfast." The company previously laid off approximately 45 employees, or a little less than 3% of the company's workforce, in January at its Montreal studio. So this is the second time the company has been hit this year, and who knows, are they going to go back for thirds? Always a possibility. It really depends on if things get turned around. A spokesman informed Games Industry at the time, "Recently changing market conditions necessitated adjusting the scope of several Behavior projects. In these situations, our preference is always to reassign talent to other projects. Unfortunately, this option is not always available to us. These departures represented less than 3% of our total workforce." That was the January stuff that was going on. The company claims to have over 1,300 employees, given the estimate of 45 employees being laid off in January, and the up to 90 being confirmed by the company. Right now, the company's laid off roughly 10% of its entire staff. The company did note that recent round of layoffs would not affect Behavior's service business nor the development of Dead by Daylight. The company is currently working on a new horror game that they are calling Project T. It's described as a 1 to 4 person PvE co-op shooter, and it is currently in development. So a horror co-op is going to be a live service game? God, I hope not. Back in 2021, the company was also allegedly working on a AAA project for Xbox and PC based on a linked listing. It's unclear if those layoffs will affect these projects. This one's probably dead in the water, knowing the way Xbox has been treating developers and all. So yeah, here's another bad story, another bad one. I hate hearing about this kind of stuff. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully these layoffs and this pain is going to lead to change in the industry. And I think I mentioned a day or two ago that I'm hoping to see more people, more developers get together and start their own companies. And that kind of brings me to this next story. And it's fascinating that this popped up today because I like this. As Hollywood and AAA video game developers burn iconic franchises like Star Wars and Halo to the ground, C.S. Lewis's advice to J.R.R. Tolkien reveals how to fight back and win. And if you listen to this kind of stuff, and I don't know if any of you ever watch Tim Pool or anything, Tim Pool always talks about creating culture, and that's something that I'm big on too. And that's something that I'm looking to get into here as I grow and I get into a position where I have some influence and I can create something. I don't want to just be a guy on the internet talking about video games and news and all that. I want to start something. I want to be part of an organization, lead an organization that pushes back against this kind of stuff and cuts paychecks to people and employs people and, does that sort of thing. That's my end goal. It's bigger than just a little YouTube channel and me schmucking around with my buddies on video games. As fun and as great as that is and all that, I want something bigger. But anyway, Hollywood and AAA video game developers continue to burn, yada yada. We'll skip that. It kind of repeats that. In letter 159 to Dora Marshall, Tolkien recalled the advice he got from C.S. Lewis. If they won't write the kind of books we want to read, we shall have to write them ourselves, but it is very laborious. There's the old creator of The Hobbit himself there. It's that simple. Hollywood and AAA video game developers are creating a bunch of degenerate trash that seemingly no one wants to watch, given the box office numbers as well as the constant stream of layoffs and studio closures in the video game industry. The solution is to create our own stories, make our own movies, and develop our own video games. And it will take hard work, and it will be laborious, absolutely. And it will be rewarding, It will definitely be rewarding. We're already seeing movies come out that Hollywood wouldn't touch, right? Angel Studios is out there. They're producing their own stuff. I think they work with Ben Shapiro and those guys. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm no big fan of any pundits in politics on either side. I do lean heavily right, but there's always, and I don't agree with everybody. I'm my own person. I don't check every box that everybody else checks, and I have my own views on a lot of things. But I'm glad to see people creating things, creating culture. Tim Pool's making music, and I think they're doing a skit show or something like that as well. I could see him putting out, what was that movie, Ballers, right? The movie about the transgender, I think it was a basketball team. Yeah, that was put out by Ben Shapiro and those guys. And, it looked hilarious. I haven't seen it yet, but it looked hilarious. I watched the one from Angel Studio on the child trafficking, and it was moving and brutal and, wow. So creating culture is the way to push back. You create your own stuff. If you don't like the stories being told, write a story. And it's as simple as that. And all these, if any of you know a developer that got laid off, or any of you know anybody in the industry and they're kind of down and out because of what's going on right now, have a talk to them about this and say, look, man, get together with like-minded people. Look at what destroyed you, okay? Have a real good look at it. Unless you're a complete zealot and completely brainwashed, when you lose that job and you stop collecting a paycheck, you're going to look at things a little differently. And you're going to be like, well, wait a minute. Maybe we shouldn't have done that. Maybe we shouldn't have pushed that hard. Maybe we shouldn't have insulted our fan base. Maybe we shouldn't have just changed characters for the sake of diversity. Maybe we shouldn't have made everybody gay. Maybe we should have done things different and just focus on making a good game, and then go make a good fucking game. People will buy it. The millions of people will buy it. And you can see it all the time. You see the failure of everything woke right now. You see everything that DEI touches, it's just so cancerous. It just rots it. Star Wars, the Acolyte, is getting dragged through the mud. The MCU has gone down the toilet since the end of Phase 3. Video game layoffs. 2 days ago we talked about there were dozens of instances of it. And I don't know how many hundreds of people were laid off. Probably several thousand based on those numbers. Yeah, I think Ubisoft alone counted for 1,700 people. That's a lot of people out there looking for jobs. And with each layoff, the market is going to get harder and harder to find a job in, because you have more and more people saturating that market. What's going to happen? The cream will rise to the top. The cream of the crop will rise to the top. These will be the ones that get the best jobs out there. People are going to be, these companies are going to realize that maybe we don't need to hire diversity hires. And you know what? It's going to filter out the garbage people that don't belong in the industry, the people in marketing that are cussing at the fan base because they don't like what's being, created, the developers that go on the defensive and start fighting with gamers and telling them that, well, if you don't like it, don't play it, or whatever, No, man, we buy your stuff. We put food on your table. If I tell you I don't like something, listen to me. Don't just brush it off and tell me I'm fucking ignorant. Tell me I'm racist or something like that. Think about it. And maybe make a change. Because if I'm saying it and a million other people are saying it, there's something to it. If I'm the only person saying it, well, maybe I'm just a jerk off, right? But I'm not alone. I see it every day. All the people I speak to about this, they're all in agreement. And these aren't just like, straight white dudes all the time. I got friends all over the place. We talk about it at work, and oh God, what's going on? Not just in video games, but in movies and television and all that. And it's ridiculous. It's gotten to the point that it's been pushed so far, it's become a parody of itself, and it's horrible. It needs to end. So, there are a number of people who are already doing this sort of thing. One of them is Brian Niemeyer, who created the Soul Cycle series as well as Combat Frame Exceed. Not only is Niemeyer creating stories that Hollywood and AAA video game companies refuse to tell, but he also has advice for fellow creators who want to follow in the footsteps of Lewis, Tolkien, and himself. First, he points out how woke death cultists use the arts. The main utility of corrupting the arts is to buttress policies enacted through government, usually the courts, which are informed by witches in the academy, teachers. So here's what's funny, right? Where was I going with this? We'll get back to that. Never mind. I lost my train of thought there. But next he provides an example. For demonstration of how this process works, let's pretend a decree comes down from the cult's high priesthood, including instructing that cannibalism is the new sacrament. The cultists don't rush to draft legislation enshrining cannibals as a protected class. Not yet. First, academics update the cult's canon with new ritual cant. That's when mid-level priests in New York and Hollywood come in, weaving the new dogmatic formulas into rhetoric spells for use on the general public. So what you see first is a goofy but lovable character on a Netflix comedy doing a bit wherein he unwittingly samples human flesh. He details the punchline comes when he learns what or who he's really eating, but he decides he likes it. His exotic appetite becomes a running gag while his character is portrayed as normal and relatable. And we watched this in real time in movies and television throughout the 80s and 90s and the aughts. We watched this happen with homosexuality, with the cross-dressing, all that nonsense. You look back at all these movies, like, what was Hollywood's big thing about, like dressing black dudes in drag, or even white dudes too? I mean, you had stuff like, God, the Medea movies, Big Mama's House, and what was the Robin Williams one where he played the nanny lady, Mrs. Doubtfire. We had one with Tootsie, with Dustin Hoffman. Just tons and tons of that stuff. You had Bosom Buddies, the TV series that got, what's his name started off there? Tom Hanks, right? I think that came out in the early 80s where he and another man dressed as women because they lived, I think it was in a women's dorm or something like that. It's been so long since I've seen that show. I don't even remember. But then, then you had the gay characters popping up here and there. One here, one there. You had, and it just slowly took over and it became normal. And that's normalization. And you can watch it happen in real time. And it's happening in real time right now with transgenderism. Okay? And the next step is the kid loving, because that's what they're pushing for next. You can see it happening in real time. People will say, no, it's not happening. No, it's not happening. Just like they said, no, all the other stuff's not happening. But as time passes and things get more and more normalized and people wake up to it, if you're told it in school and you see it on television and the news and it's in the movies, it becomes real to you, right? If the lie is told enough, the lie becomes reality, especially if you don't know how to critically think. And people don't know how to think anymore. Look at all this nonsense with Dr. Fauci and COVID that just came to light, right? He just spent a few days or a day before Congress doing all this testifying. And he said stuff that I said 4 years ago when it first came out. And I'm just some asshole that worked at a hospital. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm nothing like that. I work in numbers. I work in administration in a hospital, and I was like, well, masks, these type of masks aren't going to work like that. And the 6-foot rule, that's ridiculous. And why are we closing down everything except for big box stores and putting everybody together in these big box stores where infection will definitely spread? And, why are we 6 feet apart, but we're not wiping down the credit card machine every time we use it? And why is that guy allowed in here with a dollar store bandana over his face, but you're giving me a hard time to come in with nothing on my face? He may as well have nothing on his face. It's a dollar store bandana. It is not a medical device to protect you from viruses. It's fucking ridiculous, right? I still go to some places where there's a small piece of plexiglass in front of the cashier, like, COVID just, it just cannon straight out in front of you and slaps against it and dies. It's just, these measures were absolutely ridiculous. And people believed it. Families got destroyed. People lost their jobs. People lost their businesses. People lost their homes because of this. Violence. People wanted to, I can't tell you the amount of hate I got anytime I pushed back against that online, on Twitter, especially back then when Jack Dorsey ran the place. It was a freaking toilet. It was an absolute toilet full of left-wing garbage people that just would get you canceled in a heartbeat if you said boo in the wrong tone. And it was freaking gross. The best thing that ever happened to Twitter was that it died and became X after Elon Musk took it over. God bless you, Elon Musk. You're far from perfect, but you're a lot better than Jack Dorsey, and you did good. You gave everybody pretty much an even playing field right now, and that's what counts. That's absolutely what counts. But getting back to this, the cult hirelings in government will start floating trial balloons to decriminalize human flesh consumption. They'll stress that it'll be purely voluntary from corpses donated for use as food. You can be certain that a main selling point will be cannibalism's efficacy at fighting climate change. The initial bills and court cases will go down to defeat, but after a Netflix show is reinforced by Captain America coming out as a cannibal, a taste he developed out of grim necessity while stranded at sea after the Germans torpedoed his destroyer, and a stunning and bold new cookbook from Big Five Publishing, the opinions will hit critical mass, he notes. It's not wrong. I mean, geez, this is how it works. This is what they do, and it's absolutely insane. He then shares, mind you, that doesn't mean a majority, just a tipping point for a preference, cascade. Then the first bills decriminalizing human-sourced meat will pass into law. There will be a public outcry, but it will soon fade to a murmur as America's legal tendencies push support for cannibalism higher. And when public support for eating human flesh hits 51%, Hugh meat will be pushed in your face at all times from all directions, and not just at your local megamart, but online, on TV, and at the cinema, because it's propaganda delivered through the arts that locks the leftward ratchet turn, he concludes. There's more to this. Like I said, you can sit here and read this on your own, and it's absolutely insane, and he's absolutely right, And if you look in movies and television, you're going to see, I think he talks about this later on, but you're going to see a lot of times they show you things that they're doing, right? They show you things in these movies, and it's like these fantastical things, and then it kind of disappears, and then a few years later it happens for real, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, that was wild. Didn't I see that in that movie back 20 years ago, 30 years ago? And yeah, it's absolutely sick. So if you're out there and you want to make a difference, create something. Be a creator. Write short stories. If you're a developer, create your own studio. Work on crowdfunding your stuff. Talk to some of these bigger guys that are out there that are pushing back. Join up in forces. In groups. You have larger groups together. You can produce more. You can raise more money. You can produce some. Start small. Produce some little independent games that make some good money. Reinvest in yourself. Get better. Get stronger. Get more powerful. And then you will crush Ubisoft. You will crush Activision. You will crush all of these silly, woke gaming developers and just leave them in the dust as you become the new AAA. And if some asshole comes up to you and says,
Hey, I'm from a consulting firm that likes to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion.
You don't even let them in the door. You pick them up by the scruff of their neck and you throw them out in the goddamn street. If you like this video at all, please leave a like on it down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications. I will see you guys next time. Until then, peace.